You're listening to The Granite Discourse, a New Hampshire-based podcast with real discussions. Be sure to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And for early access, subscribe to Patreon for just $1 a month. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Dale Girard.
Yes.
Welcome to The Granite Discourse.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for coming. I know it was a long ride.
It would have been nice if the sun would have been out, I guess. So
Absolutely. But hey, at least it wasn't snowing.
That is true. That is true. We're hopefully beyond that at this point. So.
Yeah. And welcome to the Republican Party.
Yeah, it was, I'm sure, as you probably figured out, it was something that I've been thinking about it for a bit, but it was, I finally made the decision over the last weekend, and as you know, I went in and made my party change, and I'm looking forward to the change. So you're a state representative, for anybody not listening. Yeah. What
district do you represent?
So I represent Sullivan District 6, which is the city of Claremont in the town of Croydon, New Hampshire. So.
And what year did you first run?
Actually, this is my first term. I started in 2024, I guess we're at 26, right? Yeah, so 2024 I started, and I've been involved with local politics over there besides that, so.
You're the mayor of Claremont?
Yes, I'm on my third term over in Claremont. I started that in 2022 as my first term as mayor. I had been appointed to a position before that, which is how I got on the council, and then I've, like I said, been leading the council for the last 3 years and been lucky to work with a good group of people. So,
what did you do in the private sector?
Actually, I'm a paramedic. I've been running Golden Cross Ambulance over in Claremont for I think 27 years at this point. So,
wow. And so, what got you into what was your deciding factor for getting into politics?
You know, that's a great question, because I'm sure that's one of those you ask a lot of people how they made their way into it. I was one of those guys, just like you probably hear from a lot of people. I never thought I was going to get in politics. It was something I had no interest in. Then all of a sudden I started getting involved with some of the committees in the area. I started with the airport advisory, went on the planning board. Then they had a opening when a member of the city council had resigned because they were moving out of the area. Put my name in, and I guess the rest is history since then. So
when you become mayor, does the city council elect you, or is that a citywide election?
So it's a citywide election. The way it works over in Claremont is all 9 of us are re-elected every 2 years, and each position. So we have 4 at-large councilors, 3 ward seats, and assistant mayor and mayor, which are all elected by the people.
Okay. And how long have you been a Democrat before?
So since I come out of high school, so I've been a Democrat for 40 years.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And so just recently you decided to switch.
It's been probably over the last few years I've been contemplating it. And as I was sitting down there in Concord, it was a situation where a lot of days I'd be sitting there realizing that my ideologies were definitely not matching up to the party I was sitting with. And again, nothing against them. It was just I didn't feel like I was fitting in very well.
Can you elaborate on that?
Again, I think it was just some of, I think it was just policy, the way they look at it. Again, I'll just use one of the most recent ones when they talked about the CACR to trying to eliminate or keep a income tax from being able to be done without it. I think the one that came in front of us was for a 2/3 majority would have to for the legislature to put in a income tax. And I voted along with the Republican side. And as you probably know, I think there was maybe a couple of us that had crossed the line that day. But I think it's important to allow the citizens to make that decision, because even if we had passed it that day, it still was going to go on the ballot to be able to be approved at that point. So again, parental rights, I think, was one of the other ones that I was really big on the parental rights bill that we passed last year. I'm trying to think, it's one of those, you see so many bills, sometimes you don't even realize how many that come across the desk at a time. So.
Yeah, the income tax one, that would have been pretty much a referendum vote for the whole state.
Correct. So basically, the income tax one that they were trying to do is they were trying to make it so that way a simple majority couldn't pass an income tax. So they were trying to put it at 2/3. I think Representative Osborne had put that amendment in on that bill to try to have that done. And like I said, it was very widespread. And again, we didn't get the percentage to be able to get it to go on to the ballot in the fall. So.
And it would have been a constitutional amendment.
Correct. Yeah. Constitutional amendment. And again, it would have been voted on by the people, which I think is the most important thing. The people should be able to represent themselves.
I mean, if you consider yourself a Democrat, that's democracy in action right there. Like that's pretty much the rawest form of democracy.
That's what I look at. And again, it seemed like it was just because it was one party versus the other. It felt like that day. So,
what are your views on, as far as government goes, between a Democratic form of government and a Republican form of government?
I guess.
What would you prefer?
I guess I'm looking for a little bit more what you're asking, and I apologize for not understanding the question. So
like a Democratic form of government where it would be a widespread vote of the people itself, or a representative form of government where I would say the masses couldn't be manipulated to the point where they would vote, 51% of the vote can eliminate 49%.
So again, thank you for the explanation. I apologize for not understanding the question. So from my standpoint, I feel like the representation, it works most of the time. I just feel as though on the income tax piece, putting it on as the constitutional amendment, it was very important. And I think you would have seen that a good majority of people would have gone along with it and probably passed it if we would have got it out of the House that day. So,
yeah, I think the way that our Constitution is framed and the way that our government is framed, federal and state level, there's a lot of checks and balances to keep the government from going too hard one way or the other.
Correct.
Which I guess would be the Republican form of government. It's a republic.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what I mean. That's kind of like what I would prefer.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people can be. I mean, we have elections every 2 years.
Correct.
And people's minds they change real quick, and a lot of people get very emotional about a lot of issues, which I'm sure you know.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's easy to get people to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked that, because where you were Democrat and now you're a Republican, that is kind of we have a republic with Democrat elected officials.
Yes.
So we have quite the process to keep things from just getting out of hand. And where a lot of times it seems like when we have the president, for instance, we have the Electoral College.
Correct.
That's what decides the presidency.
Absolutely.
And when the president wins without the popular vote, people get mad. But we have a structure in place to
absolutely and
make sure that certain populated areas just don't decide who the president is for the whole country.
And I think that's a very important piece, because I completely agree that the state of California shouldn't be choosing our president by any means, because the Electoral College was put in for a reason, and I think it's very important. And again, I agree with you. It's a checks and balance piece, because if it was an equal number of votes from an Electoral College standpoint for every state, and as you know, populations are way off, we would really have a skewed view on who the president is as well at that point. So,
what are your thoughts on the Supreme Court's decision yesterday about gerrymandering based off of race? I think gerrymandering is definitely an issue. It's one of those, as we know, we've seen different states that have been talking about it. I feel as though, again, the state legislation here in the state, I think we're on year 6 at this point of our most recent. And again, as you know, that there was a lot of question whether there was some gerrymandering going on the last time. And I think they did a halfway decent job of trying to keep the numbers close and try to keep the districts going as well. I think they did a halfway decent job with it. So, but I don't think gerrymandering should be part of it, because, again, whether you're in, again, I'll just say California, if you want to start redistricting so that way you get more reps out of the state of California, or if you're in Texas and you want to try to
district and try to make the Republican portion. I don't think that's appropriate. I think they really should continue to try to keep it somewhat manageable. So,
how's the reception been since you've made your decision public?
So from a reception standpoint, I've heard from some folks, again, from the Republican side, there's always that concern. Some people are very looking forward to me joining them, and others are concerned that I might be going in there as a somebody that really doesn't belong there. So I truly am looking forward to working with them, but I also know I need to gain their respect. Yeah. So,
and when you decided to run in 2024, what was it that made you want to go from city politics to state?
It's like with any race out there. Different parties are always looking for members to run, and I had been asked a couple of years before that, and I really didn't think I was in the position where I could sneak myself away. And when I was asked about running in 2024, the folks that asked me, I truly was questioning whether I should be running in the Democratic Party at that point, because I didn't feel as though I was aligning 100% at that point even. And I spoke with the gentleman 2 days ago, and he basically told me, he says, you told me right up front that you were not the guy that was going to be leaning completely Democrat by any means. So I was trying to be well upfront and honest with them before I ran, but they felt as though I was one of their better options, I guess, at that time, and I hope they have an opportunity to try to find somebody to run. I guess it'll be against me at this point. So,
and so you do plan on running again?
I do.
Yeah.
My goal was to rerun. Like I said, when I was starting to think about making the change, some people have really been upset. They felt as though I should have waited until the end of the session or whatever the situation is, which we're so close to the end of the session at this point. The committee I'm on, we have one more day of execing bills, which, again, I spoke to a member from my previous caucus at this point yesterday, and they don't feel as though whether I was sitting with them or against them, that it's really going to make that much of a difference on the bills that are sitting there. So they were very good with the conversation I had. And from a full house standpoint, I think we probably have 3, maybe 4 sessions at the most left. So most of when you look at the term, we're pretty much done. And if I would have waited until the last session day was over, then I would have been making the commitment or the change in the party right about that June 2nd, which was the deadline. And if I hadn't come out and told the party that I wasn't going to rerun with them, that was almost putting them into a blind spot where they didn't have the ability to try to go out and recruit somebody as well. So,
did you introduce any legislation this year?
I was part on some bills, but I wasn't a prime sponsor on anything. It's one of those that I think the first day that I went into the House with doing the education piece before the session even started, they talk about trying to get your feet under you, try to figure out what's going on. And again, I was very good at trying to, if I would have had something, I would have been more than happy to introduce it. But I really had nothing that was really that eminent that like I said, I was trying to use this as a learning tool and try to work along through the session as well. So,
how do you think you did as far as learning the ins and outs?
It's one of those, it's a very different atmosphere when being in the House with 400 people. You learn a lot about the whole policies and processes, and as much as we use Robert's rules on a local government basis, it's nowhere near as in-depth as what we do at the State House. Learning about committees and assignments and the hearings, it was definitely a very eye-opening experience over this past 2 years. And I'm glad I had the opportunity, and I feel as though I'm going to be much more prepared to go into the second term.
A lot of people say it's like drinking from a fire hose.
You are absolutely correct. That first 6 months of your first term, which is pretty much the whole first year of it, by the time you're done, you've had so many bills come in front of you, and you really don't start committee hearings until the end of January, and you only got till the middle of March to get them out to head to the Senate. So you were you were just firing away very quickly, and we were having double sessions a lot of times with committee hearings just to try to get through all the bills. And from coming from a city, I was on municipal and county. There was a lot of town stuff that I was trying to learn as I went along too, because we don't do warrants. We don't have a lot of that stuff. So when those were coming up, it was kind of, I was taking it in, trying to do a lot of reading and education myself because I didn't want to make bad decisions.
Is it tough juggling both?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. When you're sitting here, like I said, a city is pretty simple. And I hate to say it that way. We have our charter that guides us, and the city council sits there and makes policy. We set budgets. Versus when you start dealing with all the town stuff, and you have the town meeting and the warrant articles, and a lot of legislation came in front of us trying to make adjustments. And I understand some of it, and some of it was kind of one of those. I was always questioning, was it making it worse for the local? And again, going back to your checks and balances, I'm really good with checks and balances, but it was just one of those. It seemed like sometimes I wasn't really understanding why we were doing some stuff. And like I said, I was really going back to that drinking from a fire hose situation when learning about towns at that point. So,
what's the population of Claremont?
We're at about 13,000. So we're actually smaller than a lot of the big towns in the state. We just happen to have a charter. I think it was from the 40s that we became the city, and we've always stuck with that. And when I talk to some of the members from the bigger towns, they always say, don't ever switch back, because when you're a town, you have a very tough time. So, for example, you're trying to fund new equipment for your highway department, and something gets messed up on the warrant article. Even if everybody was in support of it, if it has to get pulled from the town meeting, you're another year before you can move on. If we have an error in our resolutions, we can adjust the resolution, bring it back to the city council, and again, it goes back to the 9 of us can make the vote and pass it and try to continue to move forward without having to wait another year to make changes. So that's one of the advantages of being a city. So,
what do you think the biggest challenge is being mayor?
One of the biggest challenges, again, trying to work together in a collaborative standpoint with my other 8 counselors, working closely with our city manager. We're very fortunate. I've got a city manager who came out of finance background, so we were able to work together. Finance is one of those that I really have a love for numbers, so it's whenever we have a budget put in front of us, I always am excited. Most people hate budgets, but I look forward to the Excel spreadsheets or the budget books that are put in front of us. So I think the hardest part from a city standpoint is, again, just working together with the rest of the group and trying to keep a cohesive group at that point. So, because our cities, and again, from Claremont's standpoint, I'm sure, I don't know how much you hear from this side of the state, besides take away school funding issues, because everybody seems to know about Claremont because of school funding. We have zero oversight over the schools from the city standpoint. But
that's most municipalities in New Hampshire.
Correct. But you wouldn't believe when our school funding situation last August came out, people were, even in our own community, were losing their mind on us, trying to figure out why we didn't know that the school was in a financial crisis. And it's like, we're no different than any other citizen in town, that without having the documents or hearing from the schools, we wouldn't have any way we would have known that they were having financial issues at that point. So,
how do you think we should approach education in New Hampshire? Because the municipality really has no oversight on it. The state provides some funding, but most schools are just funded locally, which gives you more control locally.
That is correct. That, as you know, that's been the $1 million question since, as I tell everybody, Claremont should have never been the lead name on the lawsuit. We should have let one of the other communities, Franklin or Peterborough with Conval, be the lead. So, because we're 25 years later and everybody keeps talking about the Claremont lawsuit. Mm-hmm. And the problem is we always want equity. Everybody wants equity. We want people to be paying the same amount. But, if you're not spending the same or you don't have the same amount of students, I think it's very difficult. I know that under the rules in the court cases that they're saying it needs to be funded more equitably, but I don't really know because they talk about the $7,300 number. I'm not so sure whether $7,300 is the right number or wrong number because even hear about private schools. I think a lot of times you'd hear in a year's tuitions the $9,000 to $10,000 range, but that's the next question. If they can do it with $9,000 to $10,000, we need to figure out a way to be more efficient.
Because right now we spend about 23.
23, 24, I think is about what we're spending over in Claremont. So yeah, you're spot on with your numbers there.
Yeah.
And again, that $7,000 is helpful. And like I said, some of the more affluent communities are able to do more than what some of the towns that are struggling with or cities that are struggling as well. So, I don't know if I really answered your question. I think I skated around it, but.
Well, I mean, I've talked to so many people about education. It's still hard for me to wrap my head around it sometimes because it seems like the funding is never enough. And Democrats are always saying how we need to fund it more on the state side and that would lower our taxes on the local side. But I don't think that's going to happen because I feel like I think that once you have a tax, it never goes away. So they're saying it'll lower the burden on the local community, but if they don't lower spending, let's say we pass more taxes on the state level to fund education, and they just increase spending, well, then we're just going to pay more in taxes.
So if you look across the border into Vermont has a sales tax. They have local education tax or local taxes as well. Their tax burden is they're not doing well with education funding over there either. So it's a proof that just because the state's giving you more money, what ends up happening is if the state gives you more money, then it seems like everybody just wants to spend more money at the local level because they have
more money now.
Correct. So more money. I think you talk to any community, if the residents at least are saying, well, if the state can give you the money so I don't pay it on my local property tax, I'm going to be thrilled. But that's not going to fix the problem the way the system's set up. And the SWEPT, as we all know, was going to be the big fix to it. And honestly, I think most of the time it seems like instead of coming out the left pocket, it's coming out of the right pocket because the numbers, all it did was change where the money's coming from. The money gets collected for statewide property tax, and then it goes back to the local community. So like I said, I don't think it really fixed anything. All it did was change which pocket it was coming to. So
robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm hoping that at some point somebody's going to come up with some magic answer on how we can do this. But at this point, I think the local communities need to figure out a way to keep things as tightly as possible as they can to provide a good education. And numbers in the schools have gone down considerably over the years.
Yep.
What are we hearing? About 60% of what we had for a population in the schools, maybe.
Like the last 25 years?
Yeah. It's
something like that.
It's been a big drop. But did we make adjustments on staffing? Or did we make adjustments administratively? Like over in Claremont, when I was in school, we had 5 elementary schools. We had a middle school. We had a 9th grade because we didn't have enough room at the high school and then the high school. And now 2 of the elementary schools had gone away. We took one out of service this last August when we were in such rough shape financially, trying to save some money. And we still have room in these schools. So that shows you that you need to try to figure out a way to do it in a manner where you're going to be more efficient as well. So
if you don't have the demand, then you have to downsize.
That's exactly, and the problem is nobody likes to hear that term. In private business, you realize if you don't have revenues coming in, you got to cut expenses. You got to make both ends meet. With government, it doesn't always work out that way.
It'd be like running an ambulance in an area with no people.
Absolutely. If I did that, then again,
the ambulance driver's doing all right, but
yeah,
paying them
it's one of those. But they're going to get bored sitting there because they want to be able to. And you hate to say it, they want to be out doing something, but you got to be able to make it work. So if you have this many calls, you use that much for equipment and personnel. If you don't have it, then you got to figure out a way to cut it back because you can't afford to buy the equipment. You can't afford to pay the personnel. But sometimes from a government standpoint, and I hate to use the school as the only piece I'm talking about at this point, but that's one of those that I think we need to be looking at it going, okay, if we can do it with 2 classrooms and have an assistant in there, but as we know, a lot of federal mandates come out many years ago, and everything always was going to be funded, and then now it's been funded at the local level. So you hate to see unfunded mandates as well. So,
did you vote for the EFA expansion?
The one that was just on the books last week, or
was it one last week?
Okay, well, we talked about that was. I apologize. I'm off on a wrong bill here. The education funding, I did not support it, and the reason that I didn't support it was because I felt like it should have some guardrails on it. I'm for education funding accounts, but when I say it needs some guardrails on it. For example, and again, a lot of people look at it differently this way. I always like to use the example, Warren Buffett and his family are living in the state of New Hampshire, and should I be giving his family a EFA to go to the school because he can't afford it? And again, maybe I'm looking at it completely wrong when I say that. What I look at is the fact that when I was putting my son into college, I couldn't get funding or grants, I guess is the best way to put it, to pay for his college tuition. I had to pay it personally, which again, I understood, and that's what I did. Did I like it? Absolutely not. But I looked at it that my tax bracket said that I could afford it, whether I felt like I could or not. So that was kind of the way I looked at it somewhat. But there's a lot of people out there that the EFAs are helping. I've got some employees that are sending their kids to some private schools that I think it's wonderful that they're getting the opportunity to go there because they wouldn't have been able to afford it otherwise. Yeah. So there, and that's all I said when I meant needed some guardrails.
What would you say because now there's no cap?
Correct.
What would you want the cap to be if you could put one on?
You mean as far as the number?
Yeah, financially. So before it was, I think, was it 3 times the poverty rate?
It was, and that's why I said I wasn't really sure where that number should be. And like I said, I just felt like when we took the ceiling off of it, that was the only thing I was a little concerned with. And again, we only had so much money to go around as well coming out of the state. And were there people that didn't end up with some of these grants or funding that maybe would have, because you hate to say it, but folks that are making more money probably have a better way of being able to get people to explain to them how to apply for some of these funds as well, more than somebody that maybe isn't able to afford the schooling as well. So,
I mean, it's pretty simple. I think you just go online and
I've never looked, and I apologize for saying that. Like I said, I know I've got a couple of my employees that are using it, and they're thrilled, which again, he's thrown out some numbers I didn't realize, because I thought it was right around the $4,500 mark, and he was claiming he was getting over the $5,000. So I don't know if it was just misunderstanding on my behalf or whatever. But again, I know there's a lot of people out there using it, and I think it's wonderful that they're able to do that as well. So
yeah, I mean, it gives people an option that because I've known people that don't want to send their kids to public school, but they don't know what to do. They don't know how to get out of the public education system.
No,
and they're not thrilled about what they're seeing in the public education system.
When you start looking at the statewide testing scores and stuff, people are struggling. Again, I think we were in the 20s, 30 percentile ranges where a lot of our stuff was over our way. And I've got a friend who sends her child 30 miles away to another public high school, but she is able to afford it, so she's able to do that. But it's one of those. Not everybody can afford to be able to figure out transportation to get them there, plus the cost of the education.
Well, last week was open enrollment, I think.
Correct. And that's why I said I apologize for going off on which bill was which. In the open enrollment piece, the reason why I voted against it was because it was going to hurt our funding in our local schools. I wish there's an answer for that, because I have absolutely no issue if somebody wants to leave our school district. The state monies that definitely should be following them. It's just a matter of we're already in tough enough financial situation with our school district that if I turn around and I said, okay, we're going to pay for open enrollment, and with our education and our struggles in our school district, how many parents are going to be wanting to go to a different school at this point? And if the money's following the student out of Claremont at the moment, I'm going to be putting our school district in that much worse shape.
If they're at a 30%, could you blame them?
I can't say as I blame them. No, trust me, I'm not sitting here trying to advocate that. And of course, everybody's always tries to explain away why these numbers, but there's got to be a reason. I never considered myself a great student when I was in school, but I worked as hard as I could, and I did well. But I see some of these kids that are coming out of the school now that are flying through with A's, and I look back and say, I went to school at the wrong time, because they don't seem to work too hard at it, and I feel like I could do much better. But maybe I've learned that over the years since I've been out of school too. So maybe I've self-taught at this point. So do
you think a lot of kids are kind of just being pushed right through school?
I think there's a lot of that takes place when you have, whether it's a troubled youth or whatever. I think there's times that parents want their child to move along, and the school ends up just kind of pushing them along, I think so.
Yeah. What are some of the most important issues to you that you want to work on in the State House?
Again, that's a great question. I think financially, I think the state, as we all know, is struggling at this point, but I don't know what the good answer is. I think the budget, the way it was cut last year, was probably some good decisions that were made there. I think we got to figure out a way to come up with more revenues. And when I say that, I don't mean a tax. And again, without a tax, it's hard to come up with more revenues. So I'm trying to figure out how to really come up with that. But like I said, I think the biggest thing that we need to do is try to figure out how to come up with some more, a better budget to make it so we can do the right thing, or we got to start to cut back on size of government as well. So
I like that part. That sounds good. Just we got to find out which ones we can do without making people's heads explode.
That is absolutely correct. You're spot on, because there's certain things that, as we all know, that bureaucracy was built over the years, and sometimes bureaucracy was put in place to try to fix a problem, and I think sometimes we've created problems with
become self-serving.
Absolutely. There's so much of that, and again, I watch it even in our community when I'm doing our local budget. Sometimes you're sitting here looking at it going, well, this maybe shouldn't be funded any longer. And when you're there, the only purpose is trying to make sure that you figure out how to prove that your job is still efficient or needed. It's very difficult. So, but I would see downsizing is probably not a bad thing at this point as well. So,
can you think of any areas in particular?
From a statewide standpoint, I can't say I've got any one in particular department by any means. I see some of the things, and some of it doesn't look very efficient. But like I said, I don't want to sit here and try to tell you it's Homeland Security, or if it's Department of Motor Vehicles or anything like that. Because again, there's just so many departments out there, and I know the governor is going to be spending a lot of time trying to come up with her budget here very quickly. So we're coming up on that end of the year. So
what do you think it'll look like?
I'm sure that we're going to be trying to keep it as relatively flat as what we are. I'm sure by having been there for nearly 2 years that she's probably had the opportunity to review these departments, and she'll probably be coming up some suggestions or some changes based upon her being able to work with the department heads, because she came in, yes, she sat through the budget process last year, but I think a lot of it was Governor Sununu's budget, so she was there through the process. But I'll go back to your original statement. She was drinking water through that fire hose at that point, trying to pick up on every department as well quickly. So,
yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like somebody that becomes the governor, because the governor's every 2 years. You could just be the governor and never have been governor before. And
again, she sat there. We all heard that she was on these meetings with Governor Sununu at the time, but he was the one that had the inside knowledge from each of his departments as well, versus her looking at, again, you and I grab a budget book and we look at it, but if we don't know truly what the department exactly does, or how we maybe look at it because we've watched them maybe not being as efficient, or maybe there is something they need a little bit more of to make them more efficient as well. Because again, sometimes we talk about technology is helping to try to save costs. Sometimes it does, sometimes it makes it worse. So.
What do you mean, through AI?
Well, when I say technology, as we all know, a lot of these programs that are out there were supposed to make it more efficient for the staffing when they're doing different types of paperwork or anything to that nature. But if you turn around and if the software you buy is not efficient, you actually made the job worse instead of better. So that's why I'm saying sometimes technology helps, sometimes it makes it worse if we don't do a very good job of vetting systems. So.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody that uses AI, like, you don't double check its work, like, you might find that some of the things they're telling you is pretty wrong.
You are absolutely correct. You always want to do a verification, because you'd be some surprised with. I always like to laugh if you type something into AI, and next thing you know, they'll talk about something in our community. It's like, okay, we don't even have that street, or we don't have that.
Yeah.
But they're generalizing from across the country, I guess is probably the best way to put it, sometimes with AI.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of government just using AI blindly.
Absolutely not.
No, I want people to be in charge, not computers.
You're absolutely. And when I say computers, I wasn't looking at it from an AI standpoint. I was just looking at it from software to help make efficiencies.
But it's tempting.
It sure is. It's, again, a friend of mine was in a planning office, and when they were writing grants, they basically got it to a point where I had to just type in a little bit, and AI was helping you to be able to put the descriptions in, give you all the information that the federal government's looking for, because they go out and look to see which grants actually get approved, so they know how to write the application up at that point. So, and
did it work out?
They were getting grants, so I guess it was working out for them. But like I said, yes, I'm not disagreeing with you. So, but that's where sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But I'm not a big AI guy to sit here and try to think that we're going to make ourselves more efficient either. So
being a mayor and a state rep,
yes.
How many emails do you get on a weekly basis from your constituents?
So,
and how do you manage all that?
That's a great question. I'm fortunate. I have my own business. So I'm sitting.
And you have a business that you have.
Yes. So with my business, I have all 3 emails that pop up. So I'm able to kind of monitor them as the day goes on, or answer my cell phone, or whatever the case is. So I'm fortunate in that respect. I'm lucky to have good staff. My wife is able to help out and do most of the things. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the ability to do a lot of this. So I spend a lot of time over the course of the day answering emails, answering phone calls. And the former mayor, before I took over, said that she worked 20 to 30 hours a week, and I thought she was crazy. When she said that, she was probably pretty accurate, because between talking with our city manager or different counselors calling because we have some item coming up on our agenda, or citizens that are calling in. And when you get to the state stuff, a lot of, not as many, but again, maybe it's just my area. I don't see as many emails that are not some group turns around and sends it to their group. So all of a sudden you get 25 emails that all pop in your box within about 3 minutes of each other because somebody is against a bill or for a bill. And usually the letter is written exactly the same with just a different person sending it to them. So
yeah, Steve Kesselring told me a story where he was getting pretty much automatic calls from people, mm-hmm. and one of the people didn't even really know what they were calling for. They were just on the phone. He said he talked to him for a while, and I think that he changed their mind.
Yeah, because again, so many people don't understand what some of these bills do. This week, I had somebody that was calling me out on a bill that said I was I was against suicide prevention because I voted against a bill a few weeks ago. And I said, well, did you actually read the bill? Melissa Litchfield, or Representative Litchfield, had put the bill in. I said, and again, it did die in the Senate, so it's really going no place. But her bill basically made it so the schools had the option of, if they wanted to do it every 6 weeks, they could have done it. It just said that it had to be done within a 2-year period, where the current RSA says it has to be done every year. Well, if I'm in the EMS world, I don't do CPR training every year. That doesn't mean I forgot how to do CPR, mm-hmm. but it's one of those that the schools could absolutely do it every year still. It was just, I'm sure she put the bill in there because there was probably school districts out there said, I don't have a turnover and help, and I'd like to do some other different types of education. So that way, again, I'm sure you've been through education programs where you walk in, you're like, okay, I've seen this for the 10th time in the last 5 years. What's going to be new today besides the fact there's a different person presenting? And I think that's what it was. And I said, do you really think that was against suicide prevention in the schools? That was far from it. It was just a case where it was giving schools options not to have to do it every year. It was within the 2-year. And also the current RSA talked about how it was going to be implemented. It had to be done within the first 9 months once it was implemented. But now it doesn't say when it has to be implemented, which the way she changed the RSA, or would have with the LSR that she put in, it would have made it mandatory that these folks were actually educated within 30 days. So I didn't see it the same way that this person is, but that's how people they hear something from somebody, and so it's all automatically, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end. But so many people don't read the LSRs that are coming out or the amendments, so they're voting based upon what their party is also thinking.
There was something that happened like that, and I mentioned it on here before, where Glenn Cordelli had presented a housekeeping bill, and it had something to do with special education, mm-hmm. and it was used by people on the left to bash him online and get people wound up and have them send him all sorts of messages and phone calls and countless comments on Facebook and about him cutting special education. And that wasn't the case.
I'm only laughing because what you're describing is exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. Is the fact is someone gets a soundbite out of a piece of legislation, and there was probably some, like you said, it was a housekeeping bill. There was probably a couple words in there trying to correct something that all of a sudden now, oh my gosh, we're going to completely eliminate special education. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, that wasn't what it was, but try to explain that to folks, because when they hear it through the press or something else, it's got to be right.
A lie travels around the world while the mm-hmm. truth is putting his pants on.
Absolutely. And you are 100% accurate with that. And I see it frequently because I've seen it when we walk into committee hearings. All of a sudden, everybody's like, oh, I'm against this. And I a lot of times will go, well, have we looked at it this way? Or why are you thinking it's this way? Because I always like to try to look at it from all sides, going, okay, I want to understand this, which is why the bill sponsor is there to present it to us. So that way we can ask the questions to make sure we understand what their intent was.
Do those people listen to you when you try to talk to them?
I've had good luck with my committee that usually I'm really good about trying to come up with consensus. I try to work with folks going, okay, what are you thinking and why are you thinking that way? Here's what I'm thinking. And again, after the vote on this suicide prevention bill that did pass through the House, I had a friend that sits behind me, and when I explained to her why I voted yes, and she basically said she didn't realize that's the way it was worded. She felt as though it was saying you had to do it every 2 years, and she's part of a school district, and her comment was that they need to do it every year. And I said, well, there was nothing that was stopping you from doing it every year. It just, if you didn't feel the need, you could have skipped it for a year in between. And her comment was that she probably would have voted differently if she would have looked at it that way prior to the bill being voted on.
Another one was Dan McGuire. He had one that was about there were certain subjects that the state wasn't requiring schools to teach anymore, but they also weren't saying they couldn't.
Correct. And again, as you know, that bill was very
controversial,
very much, because everybody looked at it that the last court case, the Conval case, basically said that adequate education. So they were defining with Dan's bill, that was trying to define the adequate education.
Correct.
And that was where people were losing their minds, like you said, because oh my gosh, you're not going to teach civics anymore. And again, I don't even remember what the subjects were that we were discussing or not discussing that day. But instead of trying to look at it, it was automatically, it's wrong. And that's the part that's frustrating in Concord, is the fact that when you walk in some days, if you're sitting in the Republicans, that sometimes you're looking at it that's a bad bill before you even had a chance to read it. I hate to admit this, but I have certain legislators that when they walk into our committee, I'm already looking at it going, boy, they're going to have to do a really good job of selling this. And again, I know that's a horrible way of looking at it, but sometimes when you've heard some of their presentations, it's hard to try to take it seriously when they walk in as well. So,
do you think that there's some bad faith actors that are pushing this outrage that you see on large groups of people to create chaos?
Oh, absolutely. And I hate to use the term to create chaos. I think that's where we end up with. I don't think that's their initial intention. I think they're trying to get the public sympathy, is probably a nicer way to put it. I won't use the chaos word, but I think we both end up in the same spot at that point. But I feel as though what's usually end up happening is the fact that it's a bad bill because I can grab 2 sentences out of that bill that it makes it horrible, instead of sitting here going, how do we make this to where we're all comfortable with it, to where we can get to a point? But instead, we jump out onto social media, we jump out onto the local news outlet and try to make it look like, oh my God, we're going to make this a partisan issue.
It's politics getting in the way of governing.
Absolutely it is. You are 100% accurate with that. You spend a lot of time with politicians, don't you? So.
Probably too much.
But you're absolutely right. And that's exactly what happens is good legislation. And again, I've heard frequently from the House, good legislation that may be presented in the House, the Senate is so much smaller that a lot of times there's good bills get killed quickly because they just run out of time as well, I think, over there. And
I've heard it said that the Senate is a place where good legislation goes to die.
They basically say that wall right behind the speaker's desk is a wall that just somehow ruins good legislation. Huh. I'm not sure if we just don't open the door or what the issue is, but
behind that wall, what's on the other side of that wall?
The Senate.
Okay, all right. Okay, because they're right next to each other.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And that's why I said that wall seems to kill the bills at that point. So,
what did you think of Dan McGuire's SAU bill? That I don't know if that's gone through or I haven't checked on the status. They were trying to reduce SAUs down to 12?
Because they were trying to do it by county, and then there was a couple counties that were going to have multiple because the size of the counties, if I remember right, wasn't it? Hillsborough and Merrimack, maybe.
I think it has something to do with 2 counties being
because of the size of population and stuff, wasn't it?
I think they share. I think 2 of the counties are like interstate.
I think that was last year's bill, and I don't believe it went very far. I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah,
because I'm not going to tell you 12 or 13 is the right number, but 106 is not the right number. Anybody that tries to tell you, because like, again, I'm going to keep using Claremont as my example. We were a part of an SAU that at one point was Cornish, Claremont, Unity, and now up until June 30th of this year, it was Claremont and Unity's decided to pull out and be their own SAU. Well, that's a very small community, and I think all we've done is add administrative costs on both ends or taken away funding from one. So I think it can be done with far less than 106. Like I said, I don't know if we can get to 12 or 13, but I'm willing to at least look at that for an option.
How much influence how much influence does the teachers union have on all of this?
Teachers union has a lot of influence. And again, I'm going to go back to our local stuff. When we were talking about having to close a school to make it through the year, it was an emotional, and it was emotions through the teachers union. And I get it, but if I went to my staff and said, look, I got to cut back on purchasing something, they may be upset, but at the end of the day, the right decision has to be made, not the emotional decision as well. And with our community, we have a poor turnout for the school board vote every March, and very small amount of people. Usually we'll have less than 15% of the people showing up for a school budget hearing. And when you look at the number of employees in the school district, that's a perfect example that the vote can be swayed and decisions can be made based upon the employees at that school district as well.
Was it hard for you when you first started in government to make those decisions when it came to, like, let's say it's a decision that's going to affect lots of people, it's going to make people very emotional, very upset. Was it hard for you to make those decisions at first, and then, or was it easy for you in the beginning, or?
So, that's a great question. From my standpoint, I think I did okay right off the bat, because again, I've always looked at it that if you're going to be sitting here trying to make decisions, you got to have thick skin. You got to do what you feel as though is right. It might not be popular because you're always going to have that small minority that are going to be very vocal. And like we closed down our landfill or transfer station and privatized it because we were going to save ourselves $150,000 a year. That was a very emotional decision, and we had many people that were losing their minds over the fact that they were no longer going to be able to have our local transfer station. And some of it was because our folks that were working at the local transfer station maybe weren't charging them entirely because they were doing their best. Because we had a couple DPW employees that were working it, and if it got busy, that's a couple bucks or whatever. They were working hard at it, but a lot of people didn't like the idea that it was going to be privatized, because now that private company, and it was put out to bid, that private company is going to be, that's the dollar figure, and because they got to make it work at the end of the day. Versus a municipality, we end up putting it on the tax rate if we lose money at it. And so I'm willing to make those hard decisions. And sometimes, like you said, they're not popular, but at the end of the day, usually those decisions are accepted. But I'll go back to our transfer station. We had a guy that was so upset about it. He was trying to get a referendum so that way he could make it so we had to open it back up on our local ballot. And it failed, but not by much, but it failed because he went out there with the emotional pleas of, oh, they're going to do this next. They're going to do that next. We're going to get this back because we privatized and put a private business into our recreation facility that runs one of the mountains, and it's taken off, and we've got great biking up there. But again, that was a hard decision for people, and it was a split decision because everybody had emotions, and they were afraid to make the decision based upon the amount of people that were showing up. So,
how many politicians do you know that would actually bend on something like that, on those types of decisions, just because of political outpouring, or they're afraid of losing an election, or?
there's a lot of them out there that are that way, because they want to make people happy. And if you're doing your job properly, you're not going to make people happy. You're going to get 50% are going to be happy, 50% are going to be unhappy. But there's a lot of people that they won't make that hard decision because they're afraid that they're going to lose the next election. And I've looked at it this way. If in the fall, I hope to be able to continue, but if I lose, that means I guess I upset enough people that hopefully the next person will do a better job. But at the end of the day, I don't feel as though I should be caving on what I feel is best for communities.
Yeah, you're running to do a job.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're going to do.
Yep.
And you try to please everybody, sometimes you end up pleasing nobody.
You are 100% accurate there. The harder you try to please people, you're going to make it worse.
Yeah, you kind of have to pick a direction and go in that way.
And that's very difficult when you have a turnover on, like when you asked me how I was when I first came on. Most people, it takes them a good year or better before they'll settle in, because most times they won't ask questions. They just follow whatever they're. And again, the problem is they're listening to a very small group, but they feel as though that's the cross section of the community, and not realizing that when you really step back at it, a lot of times it's not that small group. That small group is the minority. It's really not the majority that they're trying to say it is.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what kind of philosophies have shaped your politics?
Great question. I'm trying to. I don't know if I have a good answer for you on that one. Yeah, I got to think about that one. I apologize.
Well, you were a Democrat for a long time.
Absolutely.
What made you a Democrat? Like, what made you want to be a Democrat for all those years?
And again, when I first came out of high school, my parents never talked about politics.
Okay.
I basically grew up in the 70s. At that point, I think it was
Carter.
When I was a kid, I was down in Florida visiting my aunt, and Carter was running for president at that time. And I think I just followed what the party was kind of in charge at that point. And I never looked at it from the beliefs of what one party was versus the other. And again, like I talk to my dad now, and my dad says that today's Democrats are not what his dad and his grandfather had. And I think that's kind of what I found myself in, is the fact that I'm very fiscally conservative. I don't feel as though we should be looking at social justice issues as a primary concern. Those are more on a national basis than they are on the state, local levels. So I feel like we've really got off track. And again, I probably didn't even answer your question. I probably made a bunch of turns on you again here, and I apologize if I didn't answer your question.
Sorry. So how old were you? So how old were you then?
I was when Carter.
Yeah.
So I was about 10 at that point. So.
So you probably really remember. I mean, when I was 10, Clinton was in office.
Yes.
And I wasn't really follling politics back then.
Again, it was one of those that the people that I would go visit when I was down south, they would talk nothing but positives about Clinton. So Carter. Thank you. You said Clinton, and I apologize. But it was one of those that I didn't really understand what the politics were all about. So I think when I first signed up, I just signed up based upon the Kennedy days and other types of things.
Did you consider yourself politically motivated back then?
Absolutely not.
No.
I probably would say over the last 10 years is probably when I've been the most involved and paid the most attention. Over the years, yes, you followed the local news or you'd hear different things. It goes back to what you said, that when all of a sudden people are doing the mass hysteria on the news, you think that's true. Mm-hmm. That's got to be what's going on in the world. And so I think up until I started really paying attention, that I didn't always understand the national level politics or even some of the local stuff.
So if we go back 10 years.
Yes.
This is around the time Trump was starting to run.
Yep.
What were your views on him and the MAGA movement and the America First agenda?
So, again, the fact that he wanted to go in and start running government like a business, I was very much for.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the first 4 years of his term, the country was going well.
Yeah.
Maybe his tweets were a little bit tough to try to deal with on a daily basis, but if you take away that piece, which is an emotional piece, the country was going in a positive direction. And that's the part that I've always said, again, go back to like when Craig Benson tried to run the government as a business, he didn't last long because people didn't like the change there. And maybe it's the approach of how the change was versus Trump had a lot of businesses over the years. So he probably had a little bit better understanding of how to try to work people together to try to move it in a business type of standpoint. So I don't know if I apologize for not answering your question. Sometimes I get to a point where I kind of start to move around.
Long form podcast, you can really just go any direction you want.
Yeah. So to answer your questions, I felt as though that movement was probably a good movement, whether you liked Donald Trump or not. I think moving government towards more business-like, I think is really important.
Do you think that, like the Trump derangement syndrome, as they call it, that we've seen over the last several years, do you think that was a motivator to push you closer to the Republican Party?
I don't know as much that. I like I said, I just, I truly feel as though the common sense policy is more what I like. And that's where I find myself a lot of times trying to understand sometimes when we're going social justice or other types of things. Things should make sense. So you should be able to do them and work with them.
Not too long ago, we had a bill on safe spaces for girls.
Yes.
How did you vote on that?
I voted to make the spaces safe. I was not in favor of having folks in the bathrooms that shouldn't have been in the bathrooms.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of stuff has been posted this week. And I guess I was one of 4 Democrats that had actually voted for the safe space.
Oh, really?
So.
And then on top of that, we have keeping obscene material out of schools. I don't know if that's been in the House yet.
I'm sorry.
Keeping obscene material out of school libraries.
That was brought up at one point.
I know there's been some committee hearings on it.
And again, I don't remember where we ended up with that one, but I do remember.
Last year it was vetoed by the governor.
So that's the one I'm probably remember then at that point. I was not understanding the bill the way from an obscene standpoint. And this is where I was probably not completely recognizing what was going on there because it seemed like some books that have been in the libraries for years were kind of being talked about that were going to be removed, which was kind of one of those I was confused about. But I agree with you. You shouldn't have in grade schools having obscene material.
Have you seen any of the material that they've talked about?
I have not.
It's pretty graphic.
Is it? Okay. No, yeah. I have not. So
do you know Kristen Noble?
I know the name, but I don't think I've met her at this point because she's head of education committee. If I remember right, when Representative Cordelli left, I think she took over the education committee.
Yeah, she carries around a folder with all that stuff with her, and she'll show anybody that's willing to look at it. And because a lot of times there's like a misinformation campaign against these types of bills where they think that they're going to be taking out, I don't know, some old books that people in like 1984, but it's really just about giving a mechanism to parents to be able to remove obscene material from schools.
And again, that's why I said I think the way I was interpreting was not the same thing that Representative Noble has and that's me not understanding,
Yeah.
I think, as well. So.
Well, I know that I've argued with some local Democrats about it, and they've said that this is going to be used by Christian families that don't like certain books, and it's really just placing it on what they were doing when they were saying that when Glenn Cordelli was pushing this legislation was that it's going to be used by Christians to basically enforce their viewpoints on other students. But I haven't seen any of that. I've heard of some of the books that have been mentioned, that have been found in the schools, and actually Kristen knows what schools have had some of this literature in it. And it's pretty graphic stuff, and it's pretty disturbing. I wouldn't want it around my children. I mean, we homeschool our kids anyways, but I don't think a lot of parents really know that a lot of this stuff is even in the schools. And I've seen it in stores. Like I went to a comic book store with my son one day, and he was looking at Spider-Man and Hulk and all the kid comic book stuff. And then I turn around and it's another rack of comic books, and there's the Hulk, and there's X-Men, and there's genderqueer right there. And I flipped through it, and it's not something a 9-year-old should be looking at, but there it was right there. And then they'll say that this isn't happening, that kids aren't being exposed to this, but it's just not the case. And I think that parents should have the tools to be able to get some of this stuff removed if that's the case. I don't think that it's going to be used for they call it the book ban, and it's not banning books. It's simply just removing ones that parents don't want in public education libraries. And if parents want to expose their kids to that type of stuff, they can go buy it on Amazon themselves, but yeah, it's I think that there was a committee hearing on it about 2 weeks ago. It'll probably be coming through. I would suggest you go and
do a little research is what you're telling me on that one. So
that's because I think that's pretty important to a lot of people.
Like I said, it was one of those that I
think the governor vetoed it last year. I don't know if she'll veto it again this year. It's an election year, so who knows what's going to happen. She might want to keep some people happy and veto it again, but I don't know. We got one more vote, hopefully, for it.
Like I said, I definitely will take a look at that because, again, it goes back to what I said about parental rights and stuff. I'm very much for parental rights, and as far as the books, like I said, what I was understanding versus what you're describing are two different things.
There's a lot of misinformation about this stuff. It's just like what we talked about earlier. People take it, they call it a book ban. It's just like when they call EFAs a voucher program. It's not a voucher program. It's an education freedom account. It's two different things. But it's how they word it and how they repeat it, and that way they can build a narrative on it. And
the more people hear it, the more they believe it. So absolutely.
Politics can be pretty dirty.
They absolutely can. So, but no, like I said, I appreciate you bringing that up about the books piece because, again, if it does come back up, which again, if it was a House bill, we might have already seen it and it might have already gone over to the Senate at this point. But if it's a Senate bill, we'll be seeing it because that's all we're getting at this point is the Senate bills that are coming across.
I know. I think today that the Senate voted on Sam Farrington's concealed carry bill for the colleges. What did you think of that?
I was the only Democrat that voted for that.
Were you?
Yes.
Nice.
So,
well, not nice because it'd be nice if every Democrat voted for it.
But again, it was one of those that's why I'm saying there was a lot of these, I'll call them the hot topic buttons that I didn't disagree with the bills. And that's where I didn't feel like I was fitting in very well because I looked at Sam's bill as a positive. And again, I know you listen to, I believe I've heard that the Durham police chief and their security don't feel as though it's appropriate. It's like anything else that I have people that I know at our city council meetings because in public buildings you're able to carry, and I know I have members that are carrying. I've got a panic button under my desk, but by the time something takes place. No, I don't want the Hatfield and McCoys going off in my city council, but I also don't mind the idea that somebody would be able to at least hopefully keep the situation under control as well. So,
have you got a lot of hate mail since you made your announcement?
It's not been bad. I had a phone call at 6:30 on Tuesday morning on my cell phone that congratulated me to show that I was a pedophile, which I thought was kind of really unique. And the phone number come out of the West Coast.
Really?
Yeah. I've had a few emails. Social media has gone a little crazy because depending on where you're at, some people are thinking that I've just completely changed who I am. And what they don't realize is the fact that I haven't changed who I am. I believe a lot of things that I wasn't agreeing with our party on.
Yeah.
And again, they didn't force me out. They didn't ask me to leave. They didn't try to pressure me. And again, I respect them very much. It just, I had completely different thoughts than they did. So.
How about your personal life? Have you had any friends that have given you any trouble?
Actually, no. It's kind of interesting because a lot of my friends are actually from the Republican Party, so they've been giving me a hard time for years. So again, there's always that kidding around, as we all know. I'll talk to politics with anybody, whether I agree or disagree. It's always a good discussion. And so
always?
Well, most times. I won't say always, but most times. And again, one of my friends who is a very big MAGA Trump supporter, and it's like I always told him, I said, I never had an issue with the way the country is going. I just think we needed to do something different with this Twitter account. And I would have been fine if we could have just cut back the Twitter account. So,
yeah.
Because again, that was just a lot of chatter that really meant nothing, but it definitely stirred a lot of people up. So
I never paid much attention to his Twitter account because that's what people lost their minds over.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why every morning I go out. My wife has horses, so I'm out in the barn. And every morning during his first term, I have to listen about this tweet and that tweet and the other tweet. And it's like, who really cares? Wait till it turns into legislation. Wait till it turns into something.
Yeah.
Just because sometimes those tweets were thrown out. It was almost a distraction.
Oh, absolutely. He's the ultimate troll.
Yeah, he does this, and all of a sudden nobody noticed that this got changed over here. Did
you see the White House tweet the other day? Was it yesterday or the day before? It was him and King Charles. And it said two kings.
I heard about it. I haven't seen it, but I've heard people. And again, people are losing their mind over that. And,
yeah.
Because as you know, that there's been that movement of the No Kings rallies and stuff. And everybody, like I said, I heard people losing their mind over that picture. It's like, what? It was a picture.
Have you been to a No Kings rally?
I have not.
No?
No, I did not. And that's why I said I really stayed clear of rallies. I never participated. If I was there, it was because I drove by and someone waved, so I stopped for a second and would say hi, but definitely wasn't a No Kings rally, but like we have a group that does a rally weekly on our, right next to City Hall in our little square.
Yeah.
So every once in a while somebody will wave to me, I'll stop, but it's usually not because I'm trying to be part of their thing. I'm trying to answer a quick question and I'm driving off.
Be careful, nobody snap pictures of you.
Oh, I'm sure somebody has at some point, and you know how that works. Is no matter where you're standing, all of a sudden you're like, where was I when that picture got taken? Because I don't remember being there. So,
how do you think the country ran under Biden?
There was some struggles.
Do you think that any of those people were vocal during Biden?
No. When you say those people, the people that are now angry about the way things because of Trump?
Yeah. I mean, because they have all these anti-war signs out there, but they didn't say any. They had all these pro-Ukrainian signs out there at the same time. Why is politics so inconsistent with
the problem is that divide. because if this side says the Ukraine thing is a wonderful thing and we should be over there supporting them, then it's a dividing tool. Instead of sitting here, again, that's why I keep saying that you got to listen to what's really going on, figure out what's going on. And I don't think you can keep sending money to fix a problem without coming up with a solution how to get, because money's never going to fix any problem.
No.
We got to figure out how to either end the fight or get out of it, whatever is best for our country as well.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, the whole Ukrainian piece has just been a struggle. And I really don't know, besides it keeps going on. I'm not so sure there's going to be an end. It's kind of almost, what was it, Yugoslavia back in the 90s that Russia was in there for forever.
I don't even remember that.
Like I said, they were in one country, and again, hopefully I'm not off my country, but they had...
they were in Afghanistan in the 80s.
Yes, but they were someplace that the Olympics had been at one point after the Olympics had been there, and I'm trying to remember where that was, and I'm probably off, and I apologize. Because the Russians were fighting someplace else at one point. Going to help me out, so I at least get the right country. So
pull it up.
Thank you. And again, that was a war that just kept going and going and going, and it destroyed a lot of...
The Chechen War?
No. What's it saying? Sorry.
Russia invasion in the 90s. The primary Russian military invasion in the 1990s was the first Chechen War, 94 to 96.
That might have been, like I said, I thought it was over in Yugoslavia, but I'm probably wrong. So,
additionally, Russia intervened in post-Soviet conflicts in Transnistria and Abkhazia.
A really easy one to pronounce.
Yeah, in the Second Chechen War.
Okay.
But I remember the 2000s when they went into Georgia.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, back then, I don't think that things were as divided as they are now. I mean, people were pretty divided over the Iraq War.
Right. No, absolutely.
But even then, I don't think it was as bad as it is. I mean, it definitely wasn't as bad as it is now. I mean, there's been 3 assassination attempts on Trump. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. How much influence did that have on your decision?
I don't think it probably had a lot of influence on my decision. I think all 3 of your attempts were absolutely horrible. I don't care whether you like somebody or dislike them. Violence is not the way to settle anything. In
I agree.
Respect.
I think the most disturbing part about it all was, and I've said this before on here, was when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, there was literally a guy that cheered about it right in front of his body. And then the celebrations online afterward. And I don't think that, Trump should have said the things that he did about like Rob Reiner when he died. And that's the consistency issue that I think that we have in politics right now. Mm-hmm. We should be consistent about what's right and what's wrong.
No, and again, whether you like Charlie Kirk's message or not, the gentleman didn't deserve to die.
No.
We can all agree to disagree, and we can have conversation and arguments, whatever, but it should never turn to violence.
Have you had any sort of threats made towards you other than the phone call?
No, I haven't had any threats, which, again, as you know, you never know what's going to happen next, but I haven't at this point. So,
because I've seen some of the stuff that Mike Belcher, because I know you sit a couple seats away from Mike Belcher.
Yeah, I'm a couple seats away.
And he's posted quite a few of the things that he's received in the mail, and it's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, I like Mike. Like I always tell him, I said, he's always a little controversial when he gets up to the well to talk. And it's not because I think it's his approach more than it's his message. He's just one of those very outgoing speakers, I think is probably a nice way to put it.
It's pretty well spoken too.
Absolutely. No, I'm not taking, but it's just, like I said, it's not what he says, it's how and I've got a good friend that I always tell him, he and I could say the exact same thing. People are going to hate him, and I'm okay. And it's like, we just said the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was his presentation. It wasn't the material. It was the presentation.
Well, it's like some of those videos that you watch online where people will ask people in the street about a quote that Trump said, and they'll say, "Oh, I don't agree with that at all." But then they'll say, "Well, actually, Obama said that," or
yeah, and then all of a
Bill
sudden it's
Clinton.
like, oh, wait a minute here, because they took it based upon who said it, not what was said.
Yeah, and that's just where we are, I guess.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be that way. The comment's either right or wrong. It doesn't care if it's coming out of my mouth, your mouth, or whoever's. If people don't like it, they don't like it. But if they don't like it because I said it, but they are okay with you saying the exact same thing, that's absolutely wrong.
Do you see this getting better or worse?
Right now, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
I'd like to think at some point it's going to get better. It took us a long time to get to where we're at, and it's going to take probably longer to get us back out of there at this point. So, and I really don't know the good answer for that, because I think I've seen some people saying the same thing. Maybe our two-party system is really not the right system, but I don't know what the right system would be either.
I mean, we're not forced to vote for two parties. There's
no, but
several parties on the ticket.
Absolutely. The problem is, as we all know, it's all about name recognition or
money.
Money is the root of all evil. Is that what they say?
That's what they say. How much did you have to spend on your campaign to get elected?
Not much.
No?
I probably spent a couple $1,000s.
Yep.
But again, I'm in a small community.
Yep.
90% of my district is my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
We had 6 candidates for 3 seats. And I have probably the location for the best billboard in the city.
Nice.
At my business. Everybody likes to use my property as their, and I let everybody. I don't hold back. I didn't care which party. I'd go out and help people put up signs. Again, didn't care which party it was.
That's cool.
Because again, I feel people should have the opportunity, because maybe they don't know somebody's name, and maybe they'll decide to at least talk to them afterwards or whatever. But I was fortunate. I've seen some races that are spending some huge money for that $200 we make every 2 years.
I think the most I've heard was like $50,000 or $60,000 for a state rep seat.
I've heard that we had one over in District 7 just about that kind of money, and I don't understand it. I can appreciate the fact that both parties want to try to take as many seats, but when you have to start spending that kind of money, I'm not sure how you can come up with that kind of donations. And as it was, the one that was the most expensive in Sullivan County, which is right in that range, I think the person lost the election.
Wow.
So money didn't buy the election.
No, it doesn't always work that way.
No. So that's why I as I always like to look at it, because this past city council race, one of my counselors has been on forever, turned around, says, I'm not putting a sign out this year or anything else. I'm just going to see if it makes any difference.
What happened?
Nothing. Everything's still voted out the same way it always has. He says, nobody votes for a sign.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think is going to happen in midterms this year? How do you think it's looking?
State-wise or federally wise?
Let's start with the state.
State-wise, I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of a change. I think you're going to probably see a few Democratic picking up some of the seats that they lost 2 years ago, just because, as you know, that people get very emotional on the midterms. And even on the federal level, you always see a kind of a change back towards the center, I guess, on the numbers. I think you're going to see that I believe the Republicans are going to keep the majority in both the houses, and I believe the governor's race as well. I know that Executive Councilor Warmington's running on the Democratic ticket, and John Kuiper, if I remember right, is also running on that. But Governor Ayotte's done a good job. Again, she is doing a good job. So in trying to beat a the incumbent is very difficult as it is. But like I said, I'm sure that there's going to be a few seats. Again, I've talked to some other people, and they feel as though it's going to stay kind of relatively the way it is. I guess I don't have enough of a feel for the statewide. Being relatively new, it's hard to get an understanding of certain districts. I think it's like any map. You can draw it and say, okay, these are going to be always red, these are always going to be blue, and these are the swing, because like over in our area, we're purple. Mm-hmm. And again, I think I was said to me the other day that when I was the top vote getter in our district 2 years ago, Steve Marchand had basically spoke and said that being the sitting mayor gained me 2 to 3 points at that point. But I also had a good following from the Republican Party over there because they felt as though I was fair. Mm-hmm. I was going to listen to both sides. So I think I was pulling votes from both directions, where other candidates were only pulling either the Democrat or the Republican. And I was fortunate enough to be able to be the guy that they feel like is listening to them. So
how about on the federal level?
I'm guessing the House is probably going to be pretty close, because right now there is a few seats different, if I remember right. I can't remember, 4 or 6 seats difference at this point in the House.
And
again, I haven't looked lately, so I hopefully I'm not way off.
In the U.S. House?
Yes. I think you're probably going to see a couple seats change, but I don't think you're going to see a huge swing there either. So.
At 217 to 212.
Okay.
That's 5 plus vacancies and 1 independent.
Okay. So I thought we were within 3 or 4, so I was close.
Yeah.
5 different.
Man, that's so close.
And again, the House seems to stay pretty, 1 year it's red, 1 year it's blue. But again, I think it's been red for about 4 or 5 years at this point, if I'm not mistaken. So my gut says that one's probably going to stay probably pretty close. There may be a couple of them will pick up a couple seats, just because, again, everybody will use the national politics. Oh my gosh, the price of gas. Well, the price of gas is based upon one thing, and we all like to think that that's going to change. It always goes up quick, never comes back down as quick as it goes up. So, as we all know. But Senate-wise, I don't think there's going to be a lot of change over there, because the seats that are open seem to be pretty solid incumbents on both sides of the aisle. So,
how do you think Republicans will fare in New Hampshire on the federal level?
That's a great question. As you know, for whatever reason, the federal elections have gone blue, but the corner office goes red. So it's kind of
weird,
confusing.
Yeah.
My gut says CD2 most likely will probably stay blue, just because Goodlander's done a good job as far as communicating with people. As I would say to Maggie, I have a good relationship with her because of working with her in the city. I don't always agree with her social policies, but she's been good to help working with us in the city. Lily, I think, is, and the other gentleman you talked about that you had on.
Victor Orlando.
I haven't met Victor at this point. Any candidate that's running, I like to bring him around the city to show him what's going on, because I think it's important, no matter who gets voted in, that they know we're there, and I'm looking to be able to work with them. From the Senate standpoint, I think that's right now in my mind is probably a toss-up. And you hate to say it again, but depends the kind of money that can start getting flowing into that election come October, November. I think it's going to make a big difference that way. As we know that Senator Sununu, or former Senator Sununu, is definitely the favorite, I think, at this point, based upon everything that's going on. I think Senator Brown, is also a good candidate at this point, but even in conversations with him, that he knows it's an uphill battle just because of the endorsements that have come out and stuff already for former Senator Sununu. So.
Yeah. Have you watched CD1 at all?
I don't see as much over there. I know that you have I think, 3 candidates for the Democratic side on the CD. One's Shaheen, Sullivan. Is that Morris Sullivan, I believe?
I think so.
And I think Heath Howard is running, and I'm probably missing somebody.
Yeah, there's another woman that's running. The one, I think she flipped off the governor.
Yes, out of Nashua. No, she's running against Goodlander
Oh, is she?
Because Nashua is CD2.
Okay, so I got that wrong.
So I think Paige Bouchain.
Yep.
I believe that she is in CD2 because Nashua, because again, the way
No, you're right.
the line draws.
Yeah.
But again, and I think in CD2 you also have the gentleman from up towards Littleton area, Sullivan, Jared Sullivan, I think is running in the Democratic side as well. But the Republican side,
there's 4 on the Republican side.
and again, I apologize. I just don't see that side of the state.
So I've had them all on, so it's easy for me to remember.
Excellent.
You get Brian Cole.
Yeah, which I know Brian. Definitely working hard. I don't know if he's got the name recognition at this point, but
He's hustling.
he absolutely is. Every time you turn around, I'm seeing his posts out there and where he's at. Again, coming out of Manchester.
Yep.
He's working hard. So.
And then there's Melissa Bailey.
Okay, I'm not sure if I've seen her. So.
Yep. So she's worked in the banking industry.
Okay.
She doing audits.
Okay.
And she's a stay-at-home mom for a while.
Yeah.
And then you have Holly Novoletsky.
Okay.
She ran in 2024.
Okay.
And there's Anthony DiLorenzo.
Which he's the businessman from down that direction,
he owns
right?
Key Auto Group.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's pretty strong candidates on the Republican side, I would say. But I think it's still early to tell. You know, I mean, they've had a couple of debates, I think. Not debates. They've had one debate in the North Country.
Okay.
I actually live streamed that from the Conway Water District.
Okay.
And so people can watch that on YouTube. And then they had some town halls that they've done where it was all the congressional candidates, and I think both Senate candidates showed up too.
Oh, wow.
On the Republican side.
Wow.
So they're all getting out there and doing what they can, you know. And Victor Orlando has been out and about quite a bit. So I don't know. It's they say that Republicans don't like to show up during midterms. But I mean, if you're looking at that number of, you know, House seats, they should really consider it, you know, because sitting at home doesn't get Republicans elected.
No, absolutely. Again, it's apathy definitely is the biggest problem. When you sit at home and then you complain the next 2 years that your candidate lost or whatever the situation.
Well, it's like Jason Osborne said when he was here. He said, people will go out and vote, but we don't win enough of a margin to do what we need to do. And then people get mad when you don't get things done, because when you only have 5 seats more of a margin, then you have to compromise and you have to reach across the aisle and you have to make concessions, and that's politics. That's just the way it is. And I mean, right now we have enough majority in the House that we can get some stuff done.
Right. No, absolutely.
We don't have a super majority.
No, it's you're absolutely correct, because again, it's like I always say to everybody that you know how the bills are going to go all day. So sometimes when we sit here and listen to the floor speech after floor speech after floor speech, it's like you want to just say, get to the point, say what you got to say. I got no issue with the floor speech, but don't drag it out, because at the end of the day, we probably already have a pretty good understanding on how these votes are going to go.
And going back to what we were talking about earlier with the public outrage, whenever there's something that people don't like, there was a couple of days, a couple marathon days that you guys had down in Concord, and I think that debates were cut short, but it was because of how little time you had to get things done.
They had a lot of bills, and again, I'm not sure how much you've spoke to anybody before that or after that session. I missed the first day because I was with my dad for medical appointments and stuff that day, so I was not able to make it. But it was one of those that we knew that there was 100 and some odd bills that needed to be done. I believe the majority leader had got up and suggested or tried to make the House rules so we could allow for an extra week to be able to do that. And again, it went down party lines that no, which I didn't understand the theory. It's like if that way you could actually heard debate or whatever the situation is. And I think there was 70 or 80 bills that never even came up for vote, if I remember right.
Oh, really?
On that second day. So on the second day, they were sitting there and they were cherry picking. And when I say that, member of this party, member of that party would get up and ask to move a bill to be the next up. And again, I think to the most part, everybody allowed for whatever they were doing. And then we got told towards the end of the day by the deputy speaker that he had spoke with leadership on both sides and said that our drop time was going to be 4:00, if I remember right, on the second day. And so that was the reason why they were cherry picking their bills, trying to get up there to make sure that whatever was possibly a priority for them to be heard this session, because the ones that never got heard just died without getting a vote even that day. So, and again, that's the problem when you put 1,000 bills in for a session too.
Yeah. So. And then it was said that Republicans were keeping people from debating and trying to shorten the process. And
because again, I think they changed it to where you could only do PIs, if I remember right. So
that's what it was.
And again, the problem is even when you're doing PIs, I've seen a lot of folks get up there and turn their PI into a floor speech, and usually finally the speaker has to explain to them that that's not a PI.
Yeah.
You can say, if I knew, only so many times in your 5-minute talk before you get to the next one, and that's a floor speech.
Yeah, but the things I saw online about how Republicans are trying to do this and that, it was just trying to create more outrage about it. And it simply wasn't the case. Like, there's a lot of bills that get voted on. And you guys stay there. You guys were there until what, 8 or 9 o'clock?
I think they were there till about 9 o'clock that night, because I also, after I finished up my day, I had a council meeting that night, and one of my other counselors is a rep as well. And I joked with him. I said, "You want to jump in the car? We can head back to Concord, because it sounds like they're still going down there." and of course, he laughed and said, "No, we'll just start fresh in the morning at this point," because he had been down there up until he came back for the council meeting. So
yeah, have you looked at the right to try legislation that went through there?
I'm not sure if I have.
That was I think Brian Cole was one pushing that. It was and I think Steve Kessler and Brian Cole are pushing those. I'm not sure if they've been voted on right off the top of my head, but I know I've been hearing about them. Basically, if you have an illness and there's a medication that you can try, like, just because it doesn't have FDA approval doesn't mean you can't try it. Like, you can still go and use it. So that's something that that is pretty interesting.
I don't recall it, but that doesn't mean it hasn't come in front of us. I just don't recall it.
Yeah.
So
that's some. I think that's some important legislation.
Well, again, anybody that's sick, they look at these things, because you end up leaving. I've got a friend who's been fighting cancer around the heart, and he ended up having to go to Boston to be able to do some trial treatments because it wasn't available for us in this state.
Yeah.
And again, knock on wood, it sounds like we're in a positive direction with it, with the trial that he was able to go to. So
that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think? Do you think New Hampshire's heading in the right direction right now?
I think we are. I think it's like anything else that everybody, depending on who you talk to, they're going to be complaining or happy. But I think that we are trying to head in a positive direction. We're trying to get business in here. We're trying to improve housing. Again, these are all problems that we all know about, and they're not easy fixes. We can all sit here and try to put the magic bullet to it, but it takes time. You could throw whatever money you had at housing right now. You only have so many people that can build it. So I think that the incentives, the work on zoning and other things has been trying to help to try to move some of this housing process along. The very important things, and we're heading in the positive direction. It just takes time. So,
where can people find more information about you?
If they were looking for me, I've got a website, Girard, number 4, New Hampshire, that you can look on. I've got a Facebook page, same thing. Questions can be asked. Email, my cell phone. Like I said, most people have it. Don't call the house number, even though that's what's on the state number, because I never listen to my house phone number. My house phone says I have a message on it. I can't even get it out of it, so I'm not sure what's going on, but they can call me on my cell phone at 603-558-0860. If they didn't catch that, they go on the City of Claremont's website, and I probably should just go out and put it on my Facebook page as well. It's there under my mayor's thing. Everybody has my cell phone number. I'd love to hear from people. Whether you're positive or negative, I like to hear what constituents have to say.
Is there a place people can donate to you online?
At the moment, I don't have a place set up because I really need to swap my location where my funding would have been going to.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm going to be in trouble if it goes the direction it's sitting.
Okay.
But yes, I will be working on that. Again, I do have a mailing address, which is on my site that they can send checks to. But electronically, like I said, I got to do a little adjustment before I start accepting electronic funds, I think, at this point. So before I get in trouble.
Oh, Dale, I want to thank you for coming on. And I know that you just made an announcement this past week that's probably not the easiest to come out with in today's political climate. And but you did it. And I'm glad that's working out for you. Hopefully you feel like you got some weight off your shoulders, and welcome to the Republican Party once again. And I hope that I hope you are happy with the decision that you made, and that moving forward you can help us do some good in the state.
I sure hope so, and I really appreciate those positive comments. It's definitely been a very stressful week, to say the least. And again, like you said, decisions like this, the average person makes them every day of the week, and nobody cares. But when you're sitting in an office, everybody think they lose their mind over decisions. And I never would have realized, because I would have thought my little Facebook post was going to be, okay, a couple people in town are going to see it, we're going to be good. I never expected that it was going to go. I think one of my employees said it to me, you broke the internet. And that really wasn't my thought on Monday morning when I went to City Hall. So
I saw it all over Facebook. I saw it all over X. I saw the New Hampshire Journal talk about it. But I think
NHPR had something yesterday, I guess, because my neighbor decided to post the article from NHPR, and his comment was, if I have protesters in front of my house, I'm starting to throw dog poop at your house. So we were having a good time with it. And my wife turned around and put a comment down that she'll start throwing the horse poop back his way if that's what he wants to do. So, but yeah, it was, again, it's crazy. I never would have guessed that anything would have put that kind of lunacy to it, I guess is the best way to put it. So
it's 2026 in politics. So.
Yeah, no, I want to go back to the days where you only had Ma Bell at home, picked up the phone, and no cell phone, and then
I would like that too. Yeah,
it makes Absolutely. Life a lot easier.
Yeah. Thanks for making the trip out here.
Very welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.